the Bruce Arians charity event on Sunday, talked about the recovery, says it's going well. He hopes to be able to participate in a June mini camp if there is one. At this point, that is the only mandatory portion of the offseason program. So Brady seemingly targeting that for a return to the field following his offseason surgery.
Fascinating, as is his propensity for changing his haircut constantly. I've never seen a person have more completely disparate haircuts in a short period of time. Tom Brady looks different every single time you see him. Meanwhile, the big question involving Brady and the Bucs is, can they defend their championship, of course? And that begins with our friends in Las Vegas at Caesars Sportsbook, where they have set the win total for the upcoming season for Tampa at 11.5, which is the second highest in the league. Only Kansas City is higher at 12. A team led by Tom Brady has not gone under its preseason win total since the 2009 season. So that is something to keep in mind on. And so is the fact, bear in mind, this is out of 17 games, not out of 16. That's going to take a lot of getting used to. It's something I feel like I'm going to need to keep reminding you, but that's the total. They're going to play 17 games. 11.5, more or less. What do you think, Dominique?
Oh, man, you set me up right there with all those facts and evidence, but I think that they're probably going to go less, honestly, and that's not terrible. I think they probably win around 11 games. They get to play the NFC East, which is not all that challenging a division, but I do think that it's important to remember that they were not this dominating team that we saw them as in the Super Bowl. Yes, there were some injuries and stuff that made it so they could dominate the Chiefs in that game, but they struggled through some of those playoff games. You could argue that they didn't necessarily deserve to win that Saints game or the game against the Packers. There were some very big kind of, I guess you could call them fluky plays that tilted that game. And throughout the course of the entire season, at no point did they feel like some consistent juggernaut. So it's hard for me to imagine that they're going to turn into that all of a sudden next year. They will be very good. I'm sure they'll win close to 11.5 games, but I think it's probably safer to project that they're going to go right at 10 or 11 than it is to go that they're going to go to 12 or 13.
A reminder that the 1 seed has never been more important in any season in NFL history than it will be this year, because there will be only one bye. Not only do we have 17 games, but we have 7 playoff teams in each conference. So with that thought in mind, Tim, does that skew your thinking? Which way do you go? You think Tampa wins more than that?
I do. I'm going more here. And listen, I think they're the best team in their division, which I don't think that was the case, especially early in the season a year ago. But I'll point to 2 other things. You brought one of them up. I know they're near and dear to Dominique's heart with his previous role in the PA. You mentioned it, the 17-game season. You're getting an extra game to get to that 12th win. That means a lot. And the other aspect of it is this, the offseason stuff, which you also touched on, which is basically, I think we're going to have an offseason similar to our offseason a year ago, which is guys are staying away. But guess what? Tom Brady's not staying away. Tom Brady is creating his own offseason. And guess what? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers players are going to go be a part of it. And so I think that continuation, that kind of team chemistry that they have in Tampa means something. I think they get to 12 wins.
Yeah. And they couldn't be more the opposite circumstance than they were a year ago at this time, Dan Graziano, when they all showed up and basically needed name tags. This time around, all 22 starters from the Super Bowl are back. So if any team should get some advantage, it would seem, from the lack of offseason work, a team with that kind of experience together seems like it should be at the top of it. What do you think, Dan?
I lean more toward Dominique here because I believe, as he does, about the thinness of the margins in this league. I'm always going to say under in a situation like this when the number's high. Now, you're right. It may take some getting used to say 11.5 is not what it was a year or two ago when they only played 16 games. But I think, the Buccaneers, yes, they had great December, great January. They are champions and worthy champions. You cannot underrate Tom Brady or his chances at winning. But they had great injury luck. And again, some of those games were very close. I really think it's very difficult to project a team to win 12 games in a season. I'm going to have to go under.
We'll see. Again, if they win 12 this year, it would be 12-5. I'm not sure exactly how long it will take me to get used to saying that, but I can tell you.
I don't even know what that means.
It's going to be a lot longer than today, that's for sure. Anyway, let me give you...
It's the guy he's been with the last year or so. But a couple of weeks ago, Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers, asked Lance if he would work for a couple weeks with John Beck, a former NFL quarterback who played for Kyle Kyle Shanahan in Washington, and who also works with quarterbacks coming out in the draft to prepare them for the NFL. Shanahan trusts Beck's eye and wanted Beck's opinion on Lance, and he worked with him for the last couple of weeks. The 49ers gave Beck a program of drills that they wanted Lance to work on specifically over the last couple of weeks. Drills he will do today during a workout that they have effectively designed and will administer. So the 49ers want to get as much information about Trey Lance as possible that is specific to them and what kind of quarterback he would be for them. They did a lot of similar stuff last week with Justin Fields, who also works with John Beck. And of course, we know Alabama's Mac Jones also under consideration for the 49ers at number 3. With 10 days to go, the Niners want to make sure they know as much as they possibly can about each of these 3 guys before deciding who to pick with that number 3 overall pick.
So, Dominique, the plot just thickens here. It goes from the 49ers knew exactly who they wanted, and that's why they moved up, to where suddenly they seem to be doing, I'm going to use the phrase kicking the tires, but that doesn't seem like nearly enough to explain what they're doing. How do you read this, Neek?
I mean, to be honest, it makes me think of Lloyd Christmas and Dumb and Dumber, so you're saying there's a chance. I think the chance is probably pretty slim. They're probably going to go with the guy that we all thought that we all think they're going to go with, and that being Mac Jones. While I don't think that's the best choice, I think it's smart of them. It's only the responsible thing to do to proverbially kick the tires on all these potential draft picks. You want to leave no stone unturned. You want to at least give everyone an opportunity. But I think you're right to think that they're at least considering it. I don't think they would go to these lengths. They wouldn't do this travel. They wouldn't send out special coaches to do recon. They wouldn't do any of this stuff if they were sitting at number 1 and they knew they were going to get Trevor Lawrence. They're doing this because there's a possibility that they might go in a different direction, as wild as that may seem to us, considering what we've been hearing for the last few weeks.
Well, okay, so Tim, let's analyze this for a minute. Before we get into the player himself, which I think most of our audience has probably never seen, because he played at North Dakota State, and they only played 1 game this season anyway. But you know who's not at the Justin Fields Pro Day last week and is not at this Pro Day today? The Jaguars are not, because they know who they're taking. The Jets are not, because they know who they're taking. So the mere fact that the 49ers are there suggests to me that they do not definitively know who they are taking. And how do you read that, Tim, for a team that traded as much as they did to move up to number 3? Wouldn't you have assumed they would have a definitive person in mind to take there?
Absolutely. And I still think that they do. And so this, the fact that they are running around to these various pro days, I don't believe that that means they don't know who they're taking. I think that they knew exactly who they were taking when they traded up. It's part of the reason for me that, with all of the Mac Jones talk, I'm not totally sold on it because they continue to show interest. So, I think for me, when I look at this, yes, they knew. At the same time, you're spending so much money scouting. Part of the evaluation process is just important for you as you go forward. Was our evaluation of this player correct 3 years from now when you see what type of player he was? And so I think following through on it is a good idea for the Niners and really, quite honestly, any NFL team. So I think that's why they're doing it more than anything. I don't believe they're doing this because they don't know who they're going to select.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. Let me present a counter argument. Dominique, I will address this to you. Okay? So if there is a restaurant that is famous for this one dish, I'm excited to go there. This is the dish I have been waiting for. Before I left my house, I knew that I was ordering this dish when I got to this restaurant. When I arrive, I'm not going to ask for a menu. I'm not going to say, show me all the other things that you have. I'm going to say, bring me that, because that's why I came here. And so I don't understand why the 49ers have to go look at the rest of the menu if they already decided what they want to order.
I think it's because people have different palates. To continue this awful analogy, I think that I am more like the 49ers because I go to the restaurant and everyone's telling me, you got to get the chicken, you got to get the chicken. I really like seafood, so I'm going to look at the menu and maybe there's some sort of lobster dish that's going to knock my socks off and I'm going to take it because that fits my system, so to speak. So I think that maybe it's possible that just because you're in this position, or you've traded up to this position, does not, in that everyone thinks that you're going in one particular direction, that does